Hi and welcome to the 5-Minute Business Boost, where you get to choose your 5-minute investment. I'm your host, Sam Hicks, and I'll be discussing topics under the headings of business development, marketing, photography, and much more. Welcome to the 5-Minute Business Boost. Today I have a very special guest and his name is Trevor Renison. Trevor is the CEO and founder of Trev's Story, a charity committed to breaking the stigma surrounding mental health and preventing suicide within the Australian trade sector. With decades of experience as a tradie, a business owner and a mentor, some 47 years, who's counting, Trevor's endured an immense personal and financial group of challenges, losing everything twice, surviving his own battles with mental health. His journey fuels a grassroots movement for real change in a workplace well-being, as Trev's story reaches out through on-site discussions, mentoring and open conversations to support tradies and small business owners. Trev shared with me that 25-something years ago, he tried to shoot himself with a nail gun, and in this time he prevented a young tradie from jumping off a 30-storey building. And this year, he's on a huge mission. In September 2025, that's this month, Trev is leading the Great Barrow Push, an epic 600-kilometre walk from Marysville, Victoria to Parliament House, Canberra, to raise awareness and funds for suicide prevention. Pushing a wheelbarrow is a symbol of the heavy and often silent load that tradies carry. He aims to spark open dialogue about the real pressure of long hours, the financial uncertainty and unspoken struggles where tragically a tradie is lost to suicide every 4 hours in Australia. In this episode, you'll hear how Trev's story actively engages individuals, workplaces and government, sometimes through raw and honest discussions to deliver vital support where it matters most. Now, as you would imagine, there is a trigger warning. Our conversation throughout this episode will be candid and at times uncomfortable, even raw. But it's a discussion we must have to help save lives in our construction industry. Now, a personal side note, as a tradie partner, my moth, or my man of the house, is also a farmer as well as a tradie. So some of our regional construction men and women can have a double dose, especially if they've got properties. And therefore, this episode for me is well overdue and very personal. In saying that, one wild fact about our guest is he has a never say die attitude. Okay, Trev, let's start. So welcome, Trev.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let's start off with the Great Barrow Push. This really interests me on a couple of different points. Can you share with our listeners and me what inspired you to take on this? This is colossal, walking with a wheelbarrow all the way from your home, and what message do you want this, and more importantly, policymakers?
Well, what's been happening for decades now, we lost our mentoring program back in the early 2000s, and that happened because we lost apprenticeships. So all of a sudden we've had the huge void of old tradies, like crusty old blokes like me. I was going to say bastards, but I thought I'd be nice. So anyway, these crusty old people like me then would be less crusties in their 50s, 40s, 30s. Well, we've lost a 20-year gap of tradies. So consequently, what we've lost is that mentoring, that handing down of life skills, not just trade skills, hammers, chisels, etc. It's what do I do if a client doesn't pay? What happens if I get behind in my tax? What happens? And we say, well, go to the accountant, have a talk to your client, bring in a mediator. That information hasn't gone through. So, of course, suicide rates have gone up, stress, depression, etc. And actions speak louder than words. And we've been doing a lot of words for a lot of years now, and we're finding a lot of deaf ears, unfortunately, and there's a few reasons we'll chat about, I'm sure. So hence we thought, what can we do? So after a red-coloured lemonade, may I say, slightly alcoholic lemonade that was, some fool said, well, why don't we do something? And I think that fool was me.
You dobbed yourself in.
Cheered on by my beautiful wife, and I said, we'll walk to bloody Canberra then. And then Helen said, well, we'll push the bloody barrow then. I said, well, we'll push the barrow then. And we'll put the dogs in it. Why not? So the idea was born. And we then analysed what we just mouthed off and said, the barrow is very symbolic, carrying workloads, be it your tools, essentially your barrows for concrete, used for a lot. So it's very symbolic about carrying the workload of a tradie. And I don't think there's any tradie, be it whatever modality, that hasn't used a wheelbarrow. So it became a very, very pivotal part of our thing. So that was how the idea was born. And the more that I mentioned it to people, the more that I couldn't get out of what I'd said. So that was.
So you're committed now?
Oh, I should be committed. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So
Trev, my second question is around mental health stigma and trades. Because you've been on the tools for some time, what unique challenges do tradies?
Well, this is the key thing.
And especially what do they face when it comes to mental health and suicide?
Well, how it starts out with the mental side of it, we touched on the mentoring. So they're a little bit unarmed, unequipped to deal with a lot of the trappings that come with being a tradesperson these days. Now, it used to be we jumped in the back of the ute and off we went to work and we did the odd quote here and there. Well, now, quoting with all the legal requirements, insurances, etc., you work by day and you quote by night. And that just destroys family life straight up. You become exhausted. And everything starts to sometimes, if you lose one item, you then lose two. Then you lose 4, 8, 16, and down that rabbit hole we go. Now, unfortunately, there's not a lot of support out there. Despite what people say, you've got some great organisations, and I'll knock them and I'll praise them like they will with me. But on all my time in the construction sites, I never once saw a physical presence of any of these organisations out there to mentor, give some guidance, give some help, explain to people how to manage their quoting times, time management, basically life management. There's nothing out there. I don't care what these organisations say. I got 40 years of sweating out there and I've never seen one of them, ever.
Yeah. So how can we help to break that stigma? Because it's a big question, Trev.
It's a big one. In my video that I know you've watched, and I'm sure some of your listeners will jump on and see, my closing comment is communication is gold. Now, that cannot be overstated enough. We used to, as tradies, we're tough, we're rough, we can handle anything. Now, I remember years ago when prostate checks were coming in, and for some of your younger listeners, that meant finger up bum. And as tough tradies, no one was sticking their finger up my bum.
That's right.
We're not talking about that. Oh, way. We'd rather die.
Yeah.
Well, now, we talk about this quite openly with a smile and a joke and everything else.
Yeah.
It's common language.
Yeah, and it's part of everyday life, really, and everyday conversation. Yeah.
But we don't speak about mental health. We still don't. And I found that the art of conversation helped me, was by default. When I got through my dark day, I went back onto a building site and I bumped into an old mate, hadn't seen him for 12, 18 months, and he asked, where have you been? I've been crook. Oh, what's wrong with you? Oh, just crook. No, what's wrong with you? I thought, for Christ's sake, Rog. And I said, I bloody near shot myself, and I told him what happened. And all of a sudden, Roger screamed out at the top of his voice to the plasterer up in the front room, "Oi, Trev's part of the crew." And I thought, what the hell? Don't tell everybody, Rog. Anyway, this guy came down and he said, "You all right?" And I told him my story. He went, "Mate, it's happened to me." And all of a sudden, I realised that the discussion made me feel really good. I felt at peace. I felt like there was not a stigma in this group of three men that were standing there on a building site. And that was basically how I then reflected upon conversation, discussions. And that's what's going to make the difference, talking about it. And the more we talk, the more people have to listen, and the more it just becomes common language. Think of swearing. Many years ago, if you heard a bloody or a damn on the TV, it was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was shocking. But
now it's an acceptable.
We're more acclimatised to it, aren't we?
Yep. And this is what we've got to do. I think the word acclimatise is very, very appropriate. We need to acclimatise ourselves to these discussions. So that would be one of the best things that I could suggest. Hence why when you see some bald-headed bastard pushing a barrow, what's going on?
You sent through some stats, and I've had a look at some stats, and they're quite shocking. And it seems we lose a tradie to suicide every 4 hours, and I know this fact, but the reason their figures are lower is that if you don't leave a note or not under medical care, your death is not classified as suicide, it's classified as mental health. So drowning, single car accidents go unaccounted, plus insurance will even pay out for accidental death. And even shooting yourself is classified these days as mental health. Now, Trev, you say, heaven forbid the facts are released, or the real facts, as it would prove just how much of these government-funded charities do or not do. Is that right? I know you're quite passionate about this side of it because you've seen it firsthand, but is that right? Are the facts skewed?
Absolutely. A few years ago, when I started with the video, etc., I made sure I did my fact checking and all the rest, and I got the stats of 1 every 4 hours, or equated to 1 every 4 hours, from a Queensland University study. Now that was removed very quickly. And as I started to delve deeper, I found that organisations like the Housing Industry Association, which attempt, I'll use the word, to do their suicide prevention things, they will not, under any circumstance, start to give the true statistics. And they were the ones that actually told me about the registering of suicide, being, shotguns, etc. They were the ones that gave me the info that if you don't leave a note or you're not under medical care, you're not even logged in. You're not even as statistics. So there's an admission there that these organisations know that, but they won't say it. They won't come out and say, hey, our statistics give these particular figures, but we're not taking into account all of the others. Why? All the others do exist. Why won't they do it? And the pure thing is, the mental health program, which is basically, it's a government program, they pour millions of dollars or even billions of dollars into this. If the general public realised how big this epidemic is, they'd say, well, where is all this money going?
Where's the accountability? Where are the results? What are the outcomes? Yep. Who are we helping? Yeah.
That's right. The when you work out the 1 every 4 hours, it's actually higher than the road toll.
Cool.
And we know how much money they spend on road toll advertising, which is fantastic.
Yes,
I completely endorse what they're doing there. But what happened to endorsing? And I'll give you a little insight as to how this is manipulated. When I did the video, a fantastic cinematographer Alex O'Daly, she produced the video. Magnificent work she did. Now, that was in conjunction with the Housing Industry Association. Well, when she produced the video and showed it to them, they went, oh, no, we can't show that. That's too raw. It's too real. So they made her doctor it down. She was furious. Hence why what you're seeing on my video is the real uncut version. There's only one thing that was altered in it, and that was at the end we had to say when it was you're not allowed to use the word commit suicide. You've got to use attempted or attempted to take your life.
Right. Yeah.
And
yeah.
I said to the housing industry, I said, well, I'm happy that you're just using the video in whatever way, shape or form you've got. This is cool. This is great. It's getting the word out there. How about at all your awards nights where you got all the industry heavyweights there, show the video? They said, yep, that'll be great. I said, I'll come in and I'll just do a 2-minute thing on stage, just introduce myself and say, this is my story. Please, guys, let's spread the word. Let's say, well, all I've heard for the last 7 or 8 years is crickets. Nothing. Never been invited to a talk. I've requested to go and give
Same,
talk.
Because, just, yeah.
And that's what's infuriating.
And I mean, at the end of the day, there are barriers and stigma around this, and why people can't make it general conversation, I'm not too sure. But from your point of view, and we'll talk about barriers to getting support, what do you see as some of the main barriers preventing tradespeople and small business owners? Because it's not just the tradies themselves, it's the construction business owners from accessing mental health support. And how does your work, because you're doing very important work out there, how does your work towards overcoming that?
How we overcome it is little by little. We have some of the smaller companies. I'll give a bit of a shout out to people like Danny from Comp Cranes. He runs a lovely crane company in Melbourne, and he invited me out, and we spoke with all of his men, had a great session, and all the rest of it. Now his men were so happy. And these people cross, how do I explain it? They cross-employ. So if Danny's not busy, his boys will possibly work for another crane company.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they start talking and they go, oh, this guy, Trev. And so we get out and we talk to the next one. So we start knocking down those doors. But the bigger builders, the tier ones and the tier twos, are very reluctant. They don't want to see, and this is a toughie for them. They need to acknowledge the fact that their building sites have a lot of personnel on it that are suffering mental illness.
Yeah.
If you sometimes acknowledge it, then you've got to deal with it, and that costs them productivity because of downtime. Now, the statistics of that is when we do a talk, we have a yes-no bucket, and we just get people to write yes or no if they've been affected by suicide. At the moment, the best we've had was 65%. The worst we've had was around 77, 78%.
Oh, goodness.
So we're talking 2/3 to 3/4 of any given workforce in the construction industry have been directly affected by a suicide, be it their own attempt or the loss of a mate.
Yeah.
And this is where we're trying to get into the employers, but this is the huge part. I even say I will come in and speak for free. No. And this is the problem I have. Employers do not want to take this and deal with it. Smaller companies, like I say, Danny from Comp Cranes, and countless others that we've been speaking with, They do. They respect their guys. But unfortunately, these bigger companies, it's just, we'll get the Beyond Blue pamphlets and throw them around the lunchroom and tick that box and we're cool.
Yeah, and she'll be right, mate. But it's not right, is it?
Not, and that's what we need to break down. And that will then give the guys, it'll break the stigma down straight away.
Yeah.
And then we can move forward. Hence why we've got to have a public image, and pushing a wheelbarrow is part of that public image. Get out there and have people ask, why is this bloke pushing a wheelbarrow? And get those questions going. So these are the things we're trying to do. Like I say, it's just little by little, and the smaller companies out there embrace us as best they can, and hats off to them. It's just keep chipping away, and that's what we're doing at the moment.
So there will be small business owners and tradies listening to this podcast. What can you suggest would be practical steps that they can take to take on or care for their mental well-being, and what role can their peers and industry leaders play in making suicide prevention a priority?
Well, it's actually very, very simple, believe it or not. You walk onto the building site, and I started a good morning. I always had a good morning issue. Blokes these days, especially the younger guys, they're busy on their phones. They don't know how to say hello. Now, when a bloke comes in, you say, good morning, and he goes, yeah, g'day, mate. You think, okay, cool. And he does it every day. And then 3 or 4 weeks later, you ask the same question, morning, how are you? Yeah, right. You think, take notice. Take notice of the change. And that way, if you're speaking to everybody and you're seeing the faces, you start to remember, oh, he's not right or she's not right. And you sometimes think, okay, now not everyone's brave enough to walk up to that person and say, are you okay? Is everything?
Mm-hmm.
But we've got so much OH&S representation out there on the floors. You can go to somebody and say, who'd be going to go and talk to this person? And you'll find somebody. So don't be afraid. Look for the signs. And when someone is really depressed, you think, oh, they're really sad. Maybe they're having a tough time at home. You think, oh, okay, and you don't say anything. And then you see them come in and they're happy. Well, that's the time you start to worry, because all of a sudden they've made up their mind. Either the situation's changed for the better and whatever was troubling them is gone, or they've gone, you know what, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to do myself in. They've made up their mind, and that's what happens. So for all the tradies out there, watch your mate. That's purely the easiest thing you can do. And if you're seeing a change in them, talk to someone. Go home and talk to your partner about it. And your partner might say, hey, maybe you should do something. Maybe you need to go to the boss. Maybe you need to go to one of your other workmates. Very, very simple steps to start this whole thing. And again, it goes back to starting the conversation. Because quite often, and this is an example of people turning away, when I had a young fellow come into my site office in Melbourne, Friday afternoon, 2:00, and he was basically in tears, and there would be at least 12 or 14 people in the site office going through plans. Not one of them thought it strange that this guy's in tears. No one said a word. And I walked up and said, what's up, mate? Nothing. Come on. What do you mean? And he said, what do you mean? I said, I've got to do that. I said, you don't have to do anything. Only thing you're going to do is come with me. We're going to sit down, we're going to have a cup of tea, and you're going to tell me. Well, that man was about to commit suicide.
Whoa.
And 14 men saw this young fellow in tears and
didn't say a thing.
Now, I'm not saying they're not great people, but they didn't know what to do. They had no idea. This was like, what the hell? Now, okay, if you don't know what to do, you can see that it's not right. You know, raise the flag, run into your boss, run into your first aider. There's first aiders on the site. So if we can go, there's a man in tears on the site. The first aider will be going, right, leave this with me. because they're trained to do something about it.
Yeah.
Don't just clam up. It gets back to communication is gold. So there's some of the small steps that you can do. Just watch your mate.
I've got a few more. Yep. Watch your mate. What was the other thing, Trev?
Watch your mate is the main one. Of course, are you okay is a fantastic one. And find out a fun fact about the person.
Yeah, yeah.
Find out, they might be a long-suffering St Kilda supporter like me. And then you know that, I think every time the finals come around, we just go into the corner, have a quiet weep. So, and find out a fun fact. And say to them, then morning, how's the Saints going? Or, how's the dogs going? They might be into greyhound racing. Who knows? Find out a fun fact that you can just share a moment's conversation with them so they actually feel that they're not alone. And that's...
Yeah, it's a real connection thing, isn't it, Trev?
It is. That's our Marble for a Mate initiative. It's the you are not alone. Everyone we catch up with, we give a marble. So you're one of the marbles in the marble bag. So if you're feeling alone, you grab that marble and go, hey, I'm one of many. And all of a sudden your day's that little bit brighter. And it only takes 5, 6, 7 seconds to prevent someone from trying to take their own life.
Yeah.
And that's just the distraction of the marble in their hand or the thought of, that bloke was asking, how I'm going. Oh, yeah, I'll bugger the rest of you. Yeah, he's all right. Yeah, and the thought's gone.
Yeah, yeah. And you've moved on to the next thing. A couple of more questions, Trev. I know we've touched on it, but why do you think the suicide rate is so high? I know you mentioned the mentoring gap. Yep. Is there any other reason? I mean, the cost of living, the whole works is such a huge a huge factor as well. But why do you feel the suicide rate is so high?
I think for people today, everyone compares to what was years ago and to what is today. I think the way in which we do business is very much become removed from a personal one-on-one. And it was always you went down and you saw someone, you shook their hand and you agreed on a price or whatever you were doing, and away you went. You had a personal contact. Now, we're all guilty. We've got these little black things that we put in our hand and they're called phones, and they're not phones anymore. They're our entertainment devices. It's the way we talk to people. We don't even look at people in the eye. We communicate through technology. We've lost the interpersonal connection, and I feel that's a huge, huge thing. And the rushing, the pressure. And if you ask a tradie these days, what is breakfast? It's either a Red Bull and a cigarette as you're putting petrol in the car, at 6 o'clock in the morning. What happened to sitting down at home and having a mouthful of Weet-Bix? It's the whole thing's changed. We're rush. I'll do it later when I have time.
Yeah.
And that's what really is the crux of it. We are under so much pressure. But believe it or not, one of the other major things for younger, especially apprentices, is too much money. There was a man shouting his lungs out on a protest meeting or whatever you want to call it many, many months ago. And this fellow was saying, there's not enough Ford Rangers in Australia for the apprentices. They're earning that much money. They all can afford to buy Ford Rangers. And he was rah-rahing about how much money these apprentices are getting and how great that is. Well, that's wonderful while their bosses got work.
Yeah, that's right. What happens when the work dries up, Trev?
Exactly. And then it becomes embarrassment. Embarrassment leads to sort of, I'm failed. And we've got the dark thoughts coming in and the spiral starts. And because these kids don't know how to communicate apart from, text messages, and they're down. And when you look at sporting clubs of today, sporting clubs used to at least be a sounding board, all sorts of clubs. People had that external to work activity and external to family as well. So they felt a little bit sometimes like they could vent to some of their closer teammates. Well, the sporting clubs you see today have trouble getting teams together because less and less people are playing sports. And that's a release as well for stress. Get out there and run around the field or do whatever. So much leisure time activity is gaming, and these are not interpersonal skills. They're just looking at a screen and grabbing a make-believe gun and shooting the bejesus out of someone. So we're becoming totally removed. So I think these are the things. There's an old saying, isn't there? It takes a couple to bring a child into the world, but it takes the village to raise that child. And that gives the child the balance until they, balances them and they become well-balanced adults, and then they become the adult that raises the child as well. So everybody knew everybody, with respect to everybody with wrinkles on their face. We actually knew our neighbours' names. We knew the person down the street.
Yeah. That statistic, Trev, that a tradie is gone every 4 hours.
Yep.
We spoke a little bit about it.
Yep. It's
in and around the statistic of that.
Well, when you look at a lot of the statistics out there, they, like I say, they fluff them down because the insurance companies don't want to imagine the court cases with suicides, because we can't have the families going in and claiming that the company that they worked for put undue pressure on their loved one, and their loved one couldn't cope and took their own life. So we can't have these statistics. We can't have precedents set. So this is why they just keep downplaying it and downplaying. It all gets down to the holy dollar. And when companies are seen to maybe have, one suicide is dreadful, but when you're talking big companies, you might have 2 or 3. Now that puts a stigma on the company as to what are they doing to their personnel to drive them to this. Now that may be true or it may not be true, but that's the question that gets asked. So these companies then just go, we can't afford to have this news put out. It's a bit like down here in Melbourne, the Westgate Bridge. People were jumping off that all the time, and it was never reported because of the copycat scenario. The next day there'd be more people doing it, and when they hear about people committing suicides on construction sites and all the rest of it, you can get the same effect. Someone else who's in a similar state of mind goes, you know what, I'm going to do the same. So all of these things that do happen, you'll often find that, so-and-so had a fall from a scaffold. He didn't fall, he jumped. Because then it goes down as an industrial accident, not a suicide. And the statistics just keep getting pushed down and down. And then because it gets down to if a major builder, and it could be a fantastic building company doing everything right, and if they had, 4 or 5 suicides on a major project, because the project may be running for a year or 2 years, even 3 on some of the bigger ones, the investors will look at that and go, oh, geez, I don't know whether we'll invest in them on the next project. They haven't got a good track record. So the investment stops. So the builder goes, well, I've done nothing wrong, and they haven't, but they've worn the consequences. So when things do happen, they cover them up because it's a case of self-preservation. And how do you break this? And the only way is to destigmatise it across the board everywhere. And so these statistics just keep getting pushed down and down and down. And when you have a look at the hierarchy system of and the organisations like Beyond Blue, Black Dog and all the rest of it, the hierarchy up there are generally all people that have come out of superannuation funds. They've been CEOs and general managers of these big companies. And now they're the CEOs and managers of these charities. So they very much understand how stigmas affect the corporate dollar. And it also affects government funding too, because governments are not going to fund things that seem to be broken. They only want to, they love funding things that are working so that they can then stand up on their platform and go, see, we've supported X, Y, Z, and look at what the benefits are. And then everyone says, oh, that's good because you're spending the money in the right place. Well, the money's not doing anything. It's just going to that place and not going in, so to speak. So these are why the statistics now are just getting bashed around, and it's always a little bit of get out on the ground, talk to your men, talk to the crews. And like I said before, when we walk into a workshop or a building site, and our statistics show that with our yes-no bucket, we're running between, mid-60s to high 70%. Even in our video that we did, there's a picture, and there was 32 men standing in the car park, of which I was one. And we did the video clip. And at the end of it, Alex, she said to everyone, I would just like 3 or 4 people, maybe 5, just to hang back, only those that have been directly affected by suicide, and we're just going to do a little snapshot. And you can see it in the video. Well, 32 men stood fast.
Whoa.
100% of a 32-man crew had been directly affected by suicide in the trade.
Oh.
Now, if people want to say to me, and this is where I get a little emotional, if they want to say to me, Trev, your statistics are bullshit, well, you bloody well come with me onto a building site and I'll show you bullshit. And, just to see and to hold a man who's died on a building site is your worst day out. And these backslappers that come out and they pat each other on the back and then they head off because they always meet at 11 o'clock so they can go for lunch, and they talk about all the initiatives that they're going to do, and they bring their pamphlets and they might throw them on the bench, but they don't talk to a single worker. And they get their snapshots, shaking hands, and off they go, and then they take that back and they get their government grants to pay for their pamphlets and all the rest of it. And what have they achieved? A hangover. They've had lunch and they've enjoyed themselves. They have not.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
And I think that's yeah. And I think this, I suppose, wraps up our episode, Trev, and why the wheelbarrow or the Great Barrow Push is going to be so significant. Can you tell me a little bit about this barrow? I mean, I want to know, are you doing it in work?
Well, being a little bit older.
And when do you kick off, and how can people help?
Right, we kick off on the 28th of September at 8 o'clock in a little country town called Marysville. And so we're heading off. I'm being a little bit of a cheat. I'm heading off in my work boots, and I will finish it in my work boots. But having done a bit of training and so forth, I've had to go new age and get a couple of nice pairs of runners.
Yep.
Just because with doing all the miles, I can't afford to have the feet go, I'm out to lunch. And,
and are you wearing your high vis?
Oh,
are you going to be wearing your orange?
Oh God, yeah, I've got to stand out like a pimple on a bum. Yep, I'm going to be in the high vis and pushing it. And for all you people there that see the wheelbarrow and go, that doesn't quite look like the real builder's barrow. Well, I was training with my builder's barrow and thought, this is bloody hard work. And so I went and got another wheelbarrow with a thinner tyre on it and pumped it up a lot harder, and that rolls a bit easier. So so it's we've had to do a bit of research on this, so it's good. But yeah, as we go through each town, we're stopping at the pubs of an evening, and we've spoken to them already, and we're going into the bars and going to be having chats with all the guys and girls that are in there and handing out some leaflets about, where they can go if they're in need of help. So, hopefully we'll be touching the hearts and minds of quite a few people as we go just to get that communication going. So, yes, well, as long as I don't get a blowout in the barrow, I'll be doing all right.
And that's okay. Who is in the wheelbarrow with you? Have you got a couple of mates going with you? Furry mates?
My darling wife, who will be assisting.
I'm not assuming she's in the wheelbarrow, but I was more talking about the one with the 4 legs.
Oh, our 4-legged puppies, yes, yes. They'll be with us. One of them's 18 and the other one's 14. They're just little dogs. I wouldn't like to have a Great Dane in there. So they'll be in the wheelbarrow as we push along, just sort of woofing at all the cars and trucks as we go past. So, yeah, we won't be hard to see. We'll be, a bald-headed bloke in a high vis pushing a barrow with 2 white dogs in it. Yep, I think I'll stand out.
Yep.
But
now, it looks like I've had a look at the dates and the townships that you're going through. It looks like you're steps a day. How do you reckon you're going to go by about day 6? You reckon it's going to be a bit of a struggle?
I'll be bugging. That's probably the best way to describe it. If I'll probably have to bathe my feet in red wine just to keep them alive. So we've gauged it. We've done the recon mission to see what's a hill and what's not a hill, and all the rest of it, so we're very confident, and we're organising at the moment at the end of our journey to catch up with Jackie Lambie, our senator. And
I see that. So that's happening, if all going well, on day 23, Monday the 20th of October.
Yep.
And are you handing something important over to her apart from your message?
Yes, we're actually putting a marble for every 4 hours in the wheelbarrow. So when we arrive there, we'll be handing her a hard hat full of marbles.
Oh, wow.
That will basically
be quite symbolic.
Yeah, that's it. And Jackie's very much part of the cause. I shouldn't say part of the cause. That was terrible. She's very much on board with our cause.
Yeah, and supporting. Yeah,
she's terrific. And so it just gets that extra bit of word out. And if we can get a bit more word into Parliament, maybe we can make a change. And like I said, I got stubborn I haven't bloody used yet. And if I save a life, with one life for this whole trip,
it'll be worth it.
I'm going to sit back when I retire in many years to come. I'm still only a pup at 63. I'll be a very happy old builder at that stage of the game, that we've done our bit. We used our craft to build nice things, but we've also used our craft to look after our fellow tradies, and that's a big thing for me.
Yeah. You're just amazing, Trev. I've really enjoyed catching up with you today. It has been a little emotionally hard because we are talking about something that's ongoing, and I'm hoping that your walk to Canberra is successful. I think we're checking in with you probably about day 10 or day 11, something around that time, to see how you're going. We'll probably try to do a bit of a live. God help us. You love technology. Anything could happen. And then we'll check in with you after day 23, Monday the 20th, to see how your feet, and if your feet are going or if they're still talking to you. So, Trev, how can people support your journey apart from looking out for you at those pubs through all those towns? How can they support Trev's story?
One of the greatest things they can do, because we are in a financial situation where we have to raise money to get our pamphlets going, because we're self-funded, don't get any government funding whatsoever. They can jump on the website and give a donation. That's the best way to help out. $1 is great. We love anything from anyone, and it just keeps us getting out there to be able to spread the word and do some good. And if they see us rolling past with the barrow, they can race up and throw a gold coin in the wheelbarrow as well and give the puppies a pat. So, either is really good for us.
Oh, that's fantastic, Trev. Well, good luck. I hope your feet hold up.
I'm sure they will, yep.
And I'm sure you'll do well. But thank you so much for your time today, Trev. I've really enjoyed catching up with you and hearing about Trev's story. And I think the personal journey, for me, has been the big motivator behind what you do. And I'm just thankful you're still here to tell the story and to make a difference.
And we're going to be here for a long time. And I just want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to spread this word that we need to be shouted from the rooftop. So thank you so much to you and all your listeners.
All righty. Thanks, Trev, for that.
No worries. You take care. We'll chat soon.
You too. Bye.
See you on the road.
Thanks for listening to the 5-Minute Business Boost. For more information, follow me on socials, sign up for my newsies, or check out my website to see how we can work together to reach your small business goals. Remember, anything is possible, especially in the northeast of Victoria. Until next time, cheerio.